What's good, everyone? It's your boy Dak908, aka the Dig Dug himself. And ladies and gents, boys and girls, Duggers and Digettes, and Monster Hunters and Monster Honeys, haven't used that in a while. We're going to be fighting Lagiacrus today. Now, I made a fantastic video about Lagiacrus, literally last year, at the very beginning of last year, actually. And what I talked about in there, I'm going to try and, not tread over the same thing. I will link to that video in the comment section. You can go and check that out. But it's just me saying that Lagiacrus is godlike and he should be respected and given another shot at being in the game. But nevertheless, today what we're going to talk about is Lagiacrus in 3U. Now, Lagiacrus got his generational start in this particular generation. He was the flagship monster of this game. Well, this is the ultimate version, the G-Rank version, whatever, so whatever. You know what I'm kind of getting at here. I'm going to say he's the flagship of this this generation. So he brought along with him underwater combat. So for a lot of people who've played Monster Hunter, they don't necessarily like underwater combat. And I'm not going to say Lagiacrus was the reason to it. But for them to actually bring in Leviathans as a new monster type, they had to kind of, cater to it a little bit. Mind you, all that aside, Lagiacrus himself is an amazing monster. He is, I guess you could say, the yin to the Rathalos' yang, and the fact that he is the Lord of the Seas, while Rathalos is the King of the Skies. The thing with these two is that they have the same weakness, not the same weaknesses. You could take one and fight the other with them. So, for example, I'm using a Rathalos lance to fight the Lagiacrus because his highest elemental weakness is that of fire, whereas Rathalos' highest elemental weakness is dragon. You can still do a lot of damage to him with electricity, which is known to be one of his more common weaknesses due to the fact that dragon weapons are kind of hard to get early on in the game as you tend to go through it. With all that said, in this particular video, let's talk about how Lagiacrus actually functions as a monster himself. Now, throughout the story, the main story of the game, you do fight Lagiacrus a couple of times. You run into him a couple of times. You'd have the instance where you see him, you can't necessarily kill him because the game refuses to allow you to kill him, but you see him underwater. Then later on, you fight him on land and then do the big, hoopla fight later on. So the thing is, being Leviathan, he actually has the ability to fight on water and land. Well, underwater and on land. Now, his land form, pretty easy to fight. He has a couple of tricks about him that can be a little obnoxious when you go to fight him proper, but for the most part, he's not that bad. He has a couple attacks that allow him to, I'm not going to say slither around, because he is kind of slithery, if you will. But whatever, I'm gonna say he slithers around and he'll shoot his I almost said fireballs, his electric balls. We're gonna call them those. He'll shoot his electric balls. Depending on if he's in rage or not, he'll shoot 1 to 3, and he'll reposition himself whenever he does it, which is, I'm not gonna say unique to him, but different from other monsters you've probably fought up until this point, where if they were to shoot their fireball, their whatever ball, they kind of stand right then and there and do it and don't really reposition themselves or move at all. Whereas the Lagiacrus himself, he'll shoot it and slide back or slide to the left, slide to the right. He also has this really wild attack that I just don't know what to call it outside of the slither curl up thing, where he'll kind of crane his head and kind of bite and swirl around. That attack is really weird because the hitbox on it is odd, because you can kind of block it from the front, but even if you don't get hit with the actual bite itself, the curling motion can hit you, and it usually hits behind, so it's very odd. You'll be blocking and then you still get hit from the back. It's a very weird attack. He actually has special properties on the attack on his other species, if you will, but that's beyond the scope of this video. We're not going to talk about that right now. Outside of that particular attack, he does have his other electric attacks. So his electric attacks come from the shell shocker, I guess is what the item is called in the game. But the points on the shell that are real spiky and pokey with the, you can see the energy coursing through his body and originating from it. But he has 2 attacks that he tends to do, where he'll do what I lovingly refer to as the discharge, where he just kind of and then he kind of shoots a little, the electricity around his body. And then that's the thing, it's usually just around his body. It doesn't really affect too much outside of his body. So if he can counter it, or he can just kind of block it, or he can just kind of sidestep away from his body a little bit, you'll be okay. Now, there's this other attack that has that I call the curl up, where he'll curl his body up real tight and then emit a huge amount of electricity, be it underwater or on land, and be giant spark balls. The electric field around his body that he would do from the standard discharge actually increased by double the size, and then he has these huge giant electric balls that spark all around his body. Those balls that hit are unblockable attacks, so you would need guard up to actually block those things, whereas the standard discharge is normally blockable. But the thing is, it actually has additional pushback, which 9 times out of 10 will push you back into the unblockable electric balls. So That's that. He has all these same attacks underwater. The one thing that I will say that differs between him being on land and on water is that when he's underwater, he has an insane amount of free movement, where you yourself as the hunter don't necessarily have the same movement properties. So he can, go in all 8 directions, if you will. He also has the ability to charge. Like he'll, like, how other monsters, they'll charge, they'll run at you in this way, run at you that way. Lagiacrus has a similar thing where he'll do the same thing, where he'll run, or rather swim quickly in one direction and turn around and come back in the other. Now, mind you, whenever he does this, he only locks on for the initial attack. So if you see that he's about to do this, you can sidestep when he does it, and you're able to sharpen or heal or whatever, because even when he's aggravated, mad or whatever, and he does the return charge attack, it's going to be exactly where he came from. So you will never get hit by it if you know how to manipulate him to do so. Like, play a bit out of range, kind of force him to be in a position where he thinks to himself that, okay, charging is the better actual option here. But these are advanced tactics. Outside of that, he has a underwater double hit check. I don't think he can double hit check on land. I'm pretty sure he doesn't. The only thing I think could double hit check on land is the Glacial Ignactor. That's because he uses the ice to slide his body around. So the double hit check underwater is pretty annoying, honestly. Again, more so when he's really upset and he hits like 10 bricks, okay? And the problem with that is you kind of have to block both of them, because it's not like the other attack where the second follow-up attack just kind of thrown out randomly. This one actually still kind of follows the player a bit. Mind you, there are times where the second does miss, you'll be kind of okay. But still, it's best to, know that it's a possibility, and to then, not think that it's not going to be a thing. Now, outside of that, as far as his standard suite of attacks and everything go, he's a Leviathan, so he has the wild pan, the run over here and like kind of swing at you, and the throw your body at you kind of thing, much like any other monster has. So that's kind of how he gets down. But outside of those main things right there, the fact that he is a flagship leads everyone to know that he has a weapon and armor set that is good. So all those weapons are really good. They're some of the best electric weapons in the game, if not the best. Actually, yes, they are the best electric weapons in the game. Zinogre is also a flagship monster, but I still think that he gets beaten out simply because there is a quote-unquote, I'm just going to say a secret form. We'll get to that later. And that form allows him to be much better than that of the Zinogre. So, with that said, he has fantastic weapons across the whole board, be it Blade Master and or Gunner. So let's actually take a brief moment to speak about his weapons and his armor. Okay, so for, I guess, like a first, I actually did a bit of research, talked to a couple of people about some of the gunning weapons for a monster. Now, Lagiacrus is, like I said, it's a flagship, so it has a weapon for literally everyone. So for whether you're a bow gunner, well, a light or a heavy bow gunner, or a bow user, it has a weapon for you. But from what I was able to actually interpret from the things they gave me, is that both the light and the heavy bow gun are kind of the same. There are a couple of things, and I'm also told this is kind of the same amongst like many others, but there are certain things that the heavy does that the light doesn't do. For example, the heavy has 10 shots in normal 3, whereas the light doesn't have any normal 3 shots at all. Same goes with the fact that the heavy has at least 1 cluster shot, whereas the light only has crack. There's a few things like that here and there, but for the most part, for what I can look at, a lot of the shots that are available to the light bow gun and heavy bow gun for the Lagiacrus are really good. The bigger, heavier damage number ones are going to be on the Lagiacrus, well, the heavy one, because like Pierce is on there, Pierce level 2s are on there, whereas not so much on the light bow gun. But everything else, they're kind of, I can say they're kind of the same, but you can definitely still get a lot of work done with the light if your goal is to just, I don't know, pepper them with a ton of different other things, because it has a lot of different shots it can use. I know a lot of people aren't probably use the pellet, but that's, it is what it is. Now, as far as the bow is concerned, now the bow, I don't think there's too much to really think about when you go to like look at the bows. It's just that you need to look at the charge levels. And for the charge shots, the charge level 1, you have Pierce 1, and level 2 is spread 3, level 3 is spread 2, and level 4 is spread 4. Kind of weird that they went backwards. So if you actually want to use the most out of your spread, you gotta have to either charge it a lot or charge it a little, because 3 to 4 as opposed to 2, 3, 4. Weird. And the arc shot is actually blast. So I don't know what the arc shot is, but that's for everyone else to interpret if you're a gunner. Hopefully this is good information for you guys. I'll try to find a way to concise this particular segment for the gunners a little bit better, and I will do the gunners first before I do the blade master, because the blade master, they get way too much shine anyway. But speaking of blade master, all your weapons are good. I don't know what to tell you. It's some of the best lightning weapons you can get in the entire game. The only thing you can kind of like battle against it would be the what's it called? Zinogre. You can probably fight with a Zinogre. It's like which one you prefer. And for the most part, it's kind of a tomato endeavor, because for the most part, the only thing to really change them is going to be the sharpness level, because the element is roughly the same. The attack is, I think the attack is a little bit higher on Zinogre, but again, it's like a little bit of give and take, you know what I mean? So it's whatever is your preference, I'd like to say. Now, I didn't specify anything about the other Lagiacrus weapons, just regular Lagiacrus. I know that's a big thing I gotta specify here, because at least in this game, as opposed to the later games, they take it to where you could take one monster and run it all the way to the end of the earth. Whereas before, in the before times, like 3U and back, certain weapons actually merge into others. So for example, Lagiacrus weapons merge into Ivory Lagiacrus weapons, and so on. I only spoke about the Lagiacrus weapons. That's up to rare 6 high rank. After that, it turns into Ivory, so you can do about that. So weapons are good. The armor though, now the armor can stay in and of itself full Lagiacrus, but for the most part, it's one of the fewer armor types that we spoke about already that actually have changes in their abilities. Now, there's two things that stay on the set, is Fast Charge and Tenderizer. It has Fast Charge and Tenderizer on low, high, and G rank, but depending on which rank you're actually using, the low rank will actually give you current resistance low, which means it's like wind pressure but underwater, which is kind of cool, but it's only low, so you're probably better off going high. The high rank actually gives you Sharpener, aka Speed Sharpen, which is always good. I spoke about Speed Sharpening before, one of my favorite skills to have, because it takes like 30 years off the time it takes to sharpen your weapon. And the G rank version actually gives you Free Element, which is Awaken. Now, it's different in every one of them, and they all serve their purpose in my opinion. Oh wait, it also gives you status attack down, so if you actually have a poison weapon, you're going to do less poison damage than you were if you were to have one, and that's across all the board as well. But also with the fact that it's G rank, it gives a few points in the handicraft, stamina drain, and crit draw. So just a couple of points, nothing crazy, like 3 in all of these except stamina drain, crit draw, which only gives you +2. But the armors are still very good. You can mix it, make something great, or you can use it raw and make something great as well. All these skills are fantastic. Fast Charge worked wonders with like great sword, long sword, switch axe, dual blades. Those weapons, the more common weapons you're gonna use, those are like common skills that you almost have to have, especially great sword. You don't make a great sword set without Fast Charge. You just don't do it. Tenderizer, which is weakness exploit, more damage when you hit the weak spot. Actually, no, it's higher crit when you hit a weak spot, which is always nice to have. And then, of course, Awaken, if you have the G-Rank version. Awaken is a fantastic ability to have on an armor set, because if a weapon you're using doesn't have an innate ability or innate element or an element, Awaken allows you to actually utilize the hidden ability of it. So that's neat. Again, like I said, the armors and weapons, fantastic. It's a flagship, so they're all going to be fantastic. Use whichever you prefer, be it Lagiacrus or Zinogre when it comes to the weapons, but I think the armor is fantastic, and everyone should at least have one set. So to wrap it up, let's make this real quick, because I talked for a lot already. Lagiacrus is the flagship monster of the Monster Hunter series, and it is the 3rd generation's original flagship monster. It brought in with it underwater combat that people either love or hate. I love to absolute death. My favorite thing about the 3rd generation, actually like my favorite thing about Monster Hunter, although it's on its way out the window forever, because you know they're shutting these servers down. Nevertheless, it has a couple of attacks that actually make it a little bit difficult to fight underwater, but not so much on land. If you are struggling with fighting this monster, fighting him on land will probably be your best bet, because he has a lot of things about him that make it a lot easier for you to utilize the things that make I'm gonna say this, I'm so sorry. There's a lot of like tales about him that make it easier for you to actually combat him, whereas underwater he has greater mobility, makes it a lot harder for you to actually come to him and do the damage or assault him in the way which you actually want to do. That's probably akin to the fact that you yourself as a hunter aren't being of the water, whereas Lagiacrus is. He actually, like I said, has a couple of attacks that are exclusive to underwater combat versus the ones that are available that he can do on land. However, everything he can do on land transfers to underwater. So his attacks, like I said, aren't really too insane. You just have to watch out for his discharge, his lightning balls, and his curl up attacks. Those are three very powerful attacks you have to watch out for. Well, useful. The discharge isn't too powerful. The curl up is really powerful, and the thunderballs can be really strong because he can shoot them a multitude of times in a row. Now, his weakness is that of fire, because he is the yin to Rathalos' yang. You can use Rathalos weapons to beat him up and do very, very well with it. I believe his weak spot is his head, so do some head stuff. Honestly, you should really do that anyway, because his horns are very, very good, like, materials to actually have. It's used in basically everything he has, his weapons, his armor, whatnot. So there you have it. That is Rathalos. Excuse me, not Rathalos. That's Lagiacrus, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for watching this video today. I will probably get a video out to you guys. What's today? Today, as speak, is Wednesday. I'll probably get one out for you guys before the weekend's end. I'm gonna try and increase my rate from from 1 video to 2 videos a week, maybe even 3 videos a week, depending on like what I can do. Cause I gotta like make some money to buy a new microphone. This isn't my microphone that you're hearing right now. My current microphone actually broke. I'm borrowing this microphone, so I'm making as many videos as I can while I have like this microphone that I'm borrowing. But nevertheless, I'll get that sorted out later. But yeah, let me know who you want to see next, and as always, it's been your boy. Take care.